G'day there ladies and gents of the internet, I am the Braveheart Aussie and welcome to a journey in world building. Today we're going to be taking a little break from our setting deep dives and instead look into a particular faction within the Dark Diaspora universe as part of our phase 2 of our world building project. And the faction we're going to be investigating has been already tangentially the subject of the last 3 settings episodes, that of the Fringe Worlds Alliance. Established approximately 2 centuries before the time of the Dark Diaspora, the Fringe Worlds Alliance was the formalization of a long-term economic trade planetary security partnership between the planets of Ozovan and Vicinity. Both worlds were settled at comparable times and proceeded down similar development paths, albeit with different constraints and challenges. On the one hand, Ozovan is a planetary ocean world that lacks land suitable for large-scale population but is otherwise highly habitable. On the other hand, Vicinity is a perma-tundra world in which the combination of atmospheric and climate conditions has resulted in significant gender disparities in the population's demographics. As both colonies grew and orbital and interplanetary resources were developed and supported by anti-gravity technologies, launch platforms were established around both planets, and trade connections between the two worlds saw a burgeoning flow of foodstuffs, raw materials, medical equipment, and techno-industrial products. Despite the relative technological advantages of both planets, the governing authorities of each maintained a sustainability focus to their development to ensure existing natural ecosystems and biomes were not disturbed by human settlements and expansions. As such, almost all manufacturing and production capability is in orbit around both planets, with the surface taking on a more agrarian and residential focus. This alignment of economic development philosophy and complementary trade positions was further reinforced by the comparative isolation of the region in the galactic southwest. Unlike the galactic northeast, which is dominated by the Titan Sector Compact, or the northwest, which is increasingly the domain of the Galador hegemony, the galactic southwest lacks a significant concentration of population and development outside of the two worlds of the Fringe Worlds Alliance. This isolation has created something of a unique culture within the region, focused heavily on individual autonomy, political independence, and economic self-sufficiency. While such concepts typically act as a bulwark against the establishment of larger confederations, the reality of pressures from outside the region, political, military, and economic, created an incentive for the establishment of a multi-planetary alliance focused on regional security, anti-piracy, and economic power projection. While support for the alliance was particularly strong amongst the core planets of Ozovan and Vicinity, wider regional suspicions that this was a precursor to a more dominant political structure within the galactic southwest made many of the hundreds of smaller outposts, moons, asteroids, and other settlements highly suspicious. However, increasing encroachment and dominance by the coalition in trade and financial matters results in an attitude shifting in favour of the alliance, and in particular the establishment of independent security and economic policy. Ultimately, the policy that proved most successful in establishing the alliance and securing almost universal membership amongst the smaller settlements was the then proposed decision to ban coalition-registered merchants from alliance space. By the time of the alliance's formation, the coalition and its merchants had taken something of a foothold over key trade routes within the region, and abuses of power and dominance were increasingly common. Additionally, the presence of the coalition ran against the independent mindsets of the smaller outposts and the larger planets alike, and disturbed the economic prosperity of the burgeoning FreeFlagger community that serviced the region. The Alliance Treaty established an Extrasolar Authority responsible for regional security and defense. It explicitly does not have the authority to intervene in domestic matters of either the now 3 major constituent planets as well as the operations of individual outposts and settlements, unless more than 2/3 of all members vote accordingly. At the time of the Diaspora, there had been no votes for intervention. The Alliance forces have maintained several security operations on outposts following the breakdown of formal administration and governance due to a number of factors. However, such operations have always been temporary, and the transition back to civilian government once resolved. The Alliance Executive Committee is comprised of representatives of both Ozovan and Vicinity, as well as a representative of current colonial projects of the Alliance, such as Corix, and 2 seats representing smaller outposts and settlements members of the Alliance. This Executive Committee is responsible for establishing interstellar cross-regional regulations relating to trade and security, as well as implementing collective foreign policy and security actions. In recent decade, a major focus of the Alliance's administration has been on the Office of Mining and Resource Development. While each planet and settlement engage in their own colonial and resource development activities individually or in partnership outside of the framework of the Alliance, major resources that are deemed to be of strategic importance have been placed under the regulatory authority of the Office. In most cases, however, this regulatory authority and associated royalties is the limit of Alliance intervention, with the exception being that of the planet of Coryx, due to the xenobiological contamination threat of local slime organisms. Royalties from rare earth mining deposits from the planet account for 50% of revenue for the Alliance, and therefore is generally supported as a way of reducing member financial inputs. The Alliance maintains a standing navy comprised of almost 24 Galador-designed attack cruisers purchased second-hand from the hegemony. These ships typically focus on regional security and defense, with local piracy suppression and security operations undertaken by locally registered FreeFlagger vessels and crews under contract. The Alliance Executive Committee does not have a fixed seat or location, and instead meets on a rotating basis across the core worlds and larger settlement outposts. However, the main administration of the Alliance is principally on the planet of Ozovan. This was acknowledged as a necessity by the matriarchs of vicinity, given the impact of climate and atmosphere has on planetary demographics and fertility. At the time of the Diaspora, the Alliance is not currently engaged in any ongoing military activities with that of other major powers. The Alliance does have a trade-related treaty with the Galador hegemony for the provision of rare earths to support hegemony's economy and industrial base. However, it is understood that Galador is in the process of developing its own rare earth resources across the territory, including the planet of Cancri. This potentially represents a medium-term threat to the economic prosperity of the Alliance, though the extent to which these in-situ resources can be developed is unknown at this point. The greatest point of extraterritorial contention is between the Alliance and that of the Coalition, where the Alliance maintains a strict prohibition on Coalition merchants undertaking any form of contract trade or engagement within Alliance space. Considering the relative isolation of the Alliance from the base of the Coalition, the Titan Sector Compact, and the fact that it isn't a major trade route to and from other powers, means that it is rare to see Coalition ships even transiting through Alliance space. This prohibition has in the past been met with serious threats from that of the Coalition, who, along with the Tarvan Covenant, view their lack of centralized involvement in the daily lives and economy of people in the Alliance as a serious threatening precedent. Nevertheless, at this point in time, both organizations remain significantly underrepresented in the Alliance due to both informal cultural and active economic policies on the part of the Alliance Executive Committee. And that is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be focusing on the brand new setting, which at this time of the recording is likely to be the crystalline world of Kopachia. I'm extremely excited to examine this world, as it again represents something of a unique opportunity to explore interesting topics, particularly as they relate to local terrors and economic resources. I'm also really focused at the moment on the establishment of a tabletop role-playing game version of the Dark Diaspora. You may have noticed a YouTube post recently on my channel in which I mentioned that I was using the Dark Diaspora as the basis of a TTRPG, and I'm happy to say that I've progressed through many of the role tables that we've already mentioned and referenced in this project, and I am integrating those into a character and spaceship focused role table heavy sci-fi TTRPG. I'm currently in the process of doing some early testing of the rules on my Discord channel, so if you're interested in being involved, make sure you go and check out the link in the description below. I intend to have a separate video in which I discuss the rules and different elements of the TTRPG. But that is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and may the journey continue.